Right now, there are two conflicting philosophies in my mind. The first one is what I would call the seek discomfort philosophy, which is inspired by David Goggins. And the idea is essentially to treat your ability to go into discomfort and to do hard things as a skill that can be trained, and to live your life according to that, which in practice means that you do things that you are afraid of, which I'm currently not doing, and the lower levels of it are to live a disciplined life. And this is something that I have been somewhat consistently in over the last few days at least. And what I do is I only eat clean food, so basically no processed foods at all. And I also take cold showers, and I do daily exercise. Yeah, I really don't have so many things that I do, but the main thing that I'm struggling with here is a clean diet. Because the second philosophy, the conflicting philosophy, is something that I read in the autobiography of Casanova, and it's an incredibly long book and I'm only at the start of it, but Casanova had an somewhat interesting philosophy. Actually, let me read it. This will take a second. But the idea is, and these are two ideas that resonate quite a bit with me. His ideas are that one, this is from like, I don't know, 1800, probably not even 1800, this is like from the late 1700s in Europe. So he is a more or less deeply, probably less. So still he's following the Christian faith. And his argument is that God has given us all the things that he gave us. And so basically all of our desires and our feelings, he has given us in order to make life more enjoyable. I'm not sure if it's actually in order to make life more enjoyable. I will really have to look this up. Once again, an incredibly professional video. Yeah. God can only demand from his creatures the practice of virtues, the seed of which he has sown in their soul. And all he has given unto us has been intended for our happiness, self-love, and all he has given unto us has been intended for our happiness. So yeah, it's not all that he has given unto us is given for our enjoyment, but it is given, it is intended for our happiness. And so then the things that he has given us are self-love, thirst for praise, emulation, I don't really know what he means by this, strength, courage, and then a power of which nothing can deprive us, the power of self-destruction. But this is like the first piece of his philosophy, is that everything God or nature has given us has been intended for our happiness, which is already completely contradictory to the seek discomfort, for the seek discomfort mindset that is prevailing at the moment in my life. Because there it's like, well, I have certain cravings essentially, and with the discomfort mindset, the way that I interpret these is as essentially an opportunity to train my ability to endure discomfort. And with what Casanova is writing, it is more the way that I would interpret these cravings is as, well, they're there to increase my happiness, and then also then the application of that, instead of not doing the thing, would be to actually do the thing that you want to do. And then there was the second part. Yeah, and then essentially this. I have always been fond of highly seasoned, rich dishes, such as macaroni prepared by a skillful Neapolitan cook, the olla podrida of the Spaniards, the glutinous codfish from Newfoundland, game with a strong flavor, and cheese, the perfect state of which is attained when the tiny animalculae, formed from its very essence, begin to shew signs of life. As for women, I have always found the odor of my beloved ones exceeding pleasant. What depraved tastes, some people will exclaim. Are you not ashamed to confess such inclinations without blushing? Dear critics, you make me laugh heartily. Thanks to my coarse tastes, I believe myself happier than other men, because I am convinced that they enhance my enjoyment. Happy are those who know how to obtain pleasures without injury to anyone. Insane are those who fancy that the Almighty can enjoy the sufferings, the pains, the fasts and abstinences which they offer to him as a sacrifice, and that his love is granted only to those who tax themselves so foolishly. And again, this is the exact opposite to the discomfort, to the seek discomfort mindset, at least in the way that I'm applying it in my life right now, which is like hard discipline, essentially. And the reason why I am trying to follow the seek discomfort mindset is because you have to understand that all great progress in life comes from things that compound over time. So things that grow exponentially over time. This is something I have taken from Sam Owen's Consulting Accelerator. And examples of this are like money, where basically it's simply when you invest money and with interest, and then you keep investing and you keep earning that interest on the money. Over time, it grows exponentially to ridiculous sums. Then also something that Sam Owens uses as an example is business. If you keep working and improving your business, then the results that you get over time also grow exponentially. Then another example is really just all kinds of skills. If you keep practicing your skill, I think your success in that skill, I'm not sure if it will grow exponentially, but it will definitely compound over time. Like when you start a new skill today, if you work on it consistently every single day for 10 years, and you also make improvements to your process of working on that skill, you can reach levels after 10 years that seem unimaginable when you first started. And so I truly believe that the road to greatness is to simply do things that compound every single day for the rest of your life. Now, the problem with compounding things is that you are essentially quite fucked when the compounding stops. And I think the easiest way to give an example of this is money. It's like if you invest, I don't know, $1,000 each month into the S&P 500 as an index fund, which is like a pretty solid way to invest your money, then you can, and you do, just keep doing this for 50 or 60 years, let's say, which is arguably longer than most people would do it, but anyways, then you can become insanely rich simply by doing this one thing, which is investing $1,000 into the S&P 500. However, the underlying assumption here is that the S&P 500 on average has a somewhat consistent positive growth rate. And in the past, this has been the case. I think the S&P 500 has grown by like on average 10% per year. And so again, you would make a lot of money over time by just simply investing in there. But this is an American example. Now, I'm from Germany, and this kind of feels bad to say. Anyways, the problem is that if for some reason the let's say the US economy collapses, maybe let's say because they get overtaken by China, then all your compounded growth from maybe decades can be gone very quickly. And so the problem with compounding processes is that they are somewhat, what's the proper name? Like Nassim Taleb would say that they are not anti-fragile. Like they can be toppled over quite easily. Okay, the way I explained this is quite messy, but the key idea is that you want to invest into compounding processes that cannot be taken away from you. And so it's like money, it does compound over time. It's incredibly powerful to invest your money consistently and just let it compound. But also there's the risk of, for some reason, you losing all your money. And so the question then is, what are compounding processes that cannot easily be taken away from you? Now, arguably, I'm not the most mentally resilient person, and so I think that I judge the risk of losing your money a bit too highly, but I think the argument still stands. And so the question is, what are processes that compound over time where the progress cannot be taken away from you? And it's like, in comparison to money, better processes to invest in, or the proper strategy here is to invest money every single month, so that you can profit from the compounding power of money, and parallel to that, to also invest time and effort into developing skills so that you can profit from the compounding nature of developing your skills. But it is arguably harder to take away your skills, than it is to take away your money. So that's that. And then I ask myself, but if practicing skills takes time. If for some reason you don't have the time to consistently practice your skills, so let's say you practice your skill for 10 years, you get incredibly good at it, but then for 2 years, for some reason you don't have any time to practice the skill, you will lose most of your progress. And you will definitely lose the compounding power of developing the compounding results from developing that skill. And then also, it's like if you lose the discipline, or if you lose the motivation to practice the skill and you just stop practicing it, then again, you also lose the compounding results of developing that skill. And so, yes, you should develop skills parallel to investing your money in order to make use of the power of compounding, or the power of exponential growth, really. But this is still a somewhat risky investment of your time and effort. And so I asked myself, what are things that are even harder to take away from you? Because essentially what my thought process really was like, what if, due to external circumstances out of my control, I don't have the time, or I can't practice my skills for a prolonged period of time. I would arguably not lose all the progress on those skills, but you would stop the exponential growth of those skills. And so there were two things that I came up with that are the practice of which is completely within my own control. And those two things are, one, presence, which is essentially the state that you try to get into when you meditate, which is essentially just, I mean, this is based on The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and the way he describes it is, he describes the state of presence in different ways, but some of the ways he describes it is that one, you have no thoughts, so you're basically you don't have any thoughts. Two, that you are basically just feeling good about yourself, and three, that you feel a certain kind of energy in your body. He calls it feeling the inner body. And those are things that you can practice at all times, regardless of circumstances. And I think that presence is a skill, just like any other skills, that compounds and can grow exponentially over time if you train it properly. But it is a skill that you can train completely independent of all outside circumstances that are outside of your control. Like, no matter what happens in circumstances that you cannot control, you can still control and work on your state of presence. And so this is a skill that potentially can compound exponentially over time, where that is completely within your control. It cannot be taken away by external factors outside of your control. You can only lose it by fucking up yourself, which is like, it's like, fine, then it's completely your own, what's the English word? It's completely your own responsibility. And then, and this is where we get to it, I think that this developing or seeking discomfort is the same kind of skill. Like, one, you get better and better at handling discomfort over time if you train it properly. And it is something that you can train regardless of all circumstances that are outside of your control, no matter where you are, no matter what happens to you. You can still work on getting better at seeking discomfort. And so this is why I'm so hanging on so much to this idea of developing the skill of seeking discomfort, because it is something that grows exponentially over time. And it's like, the fact that something grows exponentially over time is such a powerful concept that is highly underrated and that hardly anyone talks about. And so that's number one, it grows exponentially. And number two, it cannot be taken away from you by forces outside of your control. And so this is why I really want to develop it. But then again, I also really, or a part of me really feels what Casanova is writing. I actually have to read it again because I already forgot it, half of it at least. Here, happy are those who know how to obtain pleasures without injury to anyone. Insane are those who fancy that the Almighty can enjoy the sufferings, the pains, the fasts and abstinences which they offer to him as a sacrifice, and that his love is granted only to those who tax themselves so foolishly. And so, I think the key line here for me right now is, happy are those who know how to obtain pleasures without injury to anyone. Because so there are again two levels or two pieces to this. The first piece is, I don't know if if this was in the passages from Casanova that I read out loud, but one of the underlying ideas in his writings as well is that you want to experience life to its fullest. And this is something that I deeply resonate with, because I don't want to be on my deathbed realizing that I did not experience life to my fullest. And I'm gonna be honest, with my seek discomfort, with the strategy for discipline that I'm going with right now, I don't have the feeling that I'm experiencing life to the fullest. And so this is the first principle. It's like, you want to experience life to its fullest. And I'm gonna try to reconcile those two things in a minute. But really, I'm again just making this up on the spot. And then the second thing is, happy are those who know how to obtain pleasures without injury to anyone. And then the question is, are there pleasures that can be obtained without injury to anyone? And really it's like, are there pleasures that can be obtained without injury to other people? In the modern world, I think it is very hard. For example, I mean, really what this is about me craving some nice processed food. And it's like, that stuff is arguably built on the back of a lot of, I'm not sure, but it's arguably built on the back of a lot of suffering of other people. But no, actually I think the principle of thinking about, oh, is this pleasure that I indulge in, is it hurting other people, is like, it's hard to say, right? I don't think it's a very good standard for making decisions, because it is very hard to judge and very hard to measure. I think a way better standard for me is to ask myself if it is actually, if I can indulge in pleasures without any harm to myself. And the problem here is that anything I do means that I can't do another thing. And so, by definition, every action that you take is a sacrifice, or sacrifices all the other potential actions that you could have taken. It's like, and so, but this means that every action would, again, we are only talking about inflicting harm on yourself, fuck other people at this point. Happy are those who know how to obtain pleasures without injury to anyone. And it's like, damn, in my current mindset, I feel like every action I take, in a sense, as a sacrifice, yeah, but the question is it an injury to myself? And it's like, I don't fucking know. How do you judge this? So I'm definitely not gonna come to a clear conclusion in this video. Maybe in the video tomorrow. I'm gonna try to bring this to a somewhat of a quick conclusion here, which is, and this is really based on the principle of experiencing life to its fullest. And so I think what I have to work on is, or the idea here is that you want to seek discomfort, but you want to seek discomfort with the goal of experiencing life to its fullest and not as an end to itself. And I will try to remember this conclusion and talk about how to apply it to my life tomorrow, and also talk about the pleasures that can be had without injury to yourself. See you then.